So I just want to welcome everybody who's watching from every location. We're so glad. Woo! All the ladies here in Hereford are cheering you on. As we stand as women across all locations, we want to cheer each other on in our marriages, don't we? And we want to thrive as wives. That almost rhymes, doesn't it? But we do. We want to thrive as wives. And so that's what we're going to cover tonight. And this is something I'm really passionate about. Is marriage. So we're going to have a look and see what God says about marriage tonight. So, you all ready here in Hereford? Excited to be together, it's great. So, we're going to start off by going right back to the beginning, not of mine and Gary's marriage, although that is a long time ago, 32 years, it's quite a while. And I know some of you here have been married a long time, some of you have been married a short time, but it's all good stuff, and we're all going to learn something together tonight, so it's great. We haven't got the perfect marriage either. You know, I love that Instagram thing because we can all make out everything is perfect, but we're people, aren't we? We're, you know, as Krista's shared, you know, we're not perfect, but we can have a healthy marriage. And that's what we want to talk about tonight. We can have a great marriage. And as Christians, we should actually have the best marriages on planet Earth. So we're going to look at what God's word says to us about marriage tonight. So we're going to go right back to Genesis, right to the beginning, where God created Eve. And the Lord said, "It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." So the Lord God caused the man to fall into a deep sleep, and while he was sleeping, he took one of the man's ribs and then closed up the place with flesh. Then the Lord made a woman from the rib he had taken out of the man, and he brought her to the man. I love that because the rib is like under the arm and next to the heart, so we're protected and we're in love. So that's pretty awesome. The man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." What a funny thing to say when he first sees his woman. I mean, I'm sure he was pretty glad he didn't have to stick with the hippopotamus or the giraffe. He must have been pretty impressed to see his woman. "She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." Right, so the Lord said it is not good for man to be alone, which is so true, isn't it? Because we were made for a relationship. That's what it's all about. And that's why you sent so many questions in about relationships, because God wants a relationship with us, but he wants us to have relationships with one another. And, you know, he said, "I'm going to make him a helper suitable for him, a companion." So I want to look at the word helper, because we're not just someone to do the dishes, are we? We're not that kind of help, that small kind of help, just someone to do the dishes, look after the kids and do all the little jobs around the house. It's not talking about that kind of helper. It's the Hebrew for the word helper is ezer. I don't know if that's how you say it, but and it's talking about a vital, powerful kind of help. And I love that, because when you think of something vital, it's something that you really need. Something that is vital, it means you can't do without it. So, Ollie, Dave can't do without you. And, you know, Lika, Scott can't do without you. And Emily, Andy can't do without you. Isn't that great to know that they can't do without us? And that's what God says. We're a vital, powerful kind of help. Powerful kind of help. That's awesome. You know, and even the help of the Holy Spirit is almost likened to the same kind of help. Acts of rescue and support. We're involved with our husbands in acts of rescue. Sometimes we have to rescue them, and sometimes they have to rescue us. And sometimes we have to rescue our kids, but we're also in the business of rescuing others together, and they need our help to do that. And support. We're there to support them, to help them, to lift up their arms, and to speak life and hope to them, to save them. Sometimes we need to save them, and I really believe that Krista, I know Jesus saves us, but I really believe that you saved your husband because of the way you loved him, you know, like Christ loved him. And sometimes we have to save them, and we have to bring strength to them, don't we? And it's funny, God says it's not good for man to be alone, but it's interesting how he did actually leave Adam alone for quite a while. And I'm sure it was to show how much he needed his woman. And he was probably quite lonely as well. But God brought a companion into his life. And a companion means, let's have a look at that as well, this is in the dictionary, to complement one another, to counterpart, fellow, mate, twin, other half, match. So we're the other half of one whole, and we're there to match each other uniquely. And what I love about it is we were the solution. Man was actually incomplete without us, and God said, this isn't any good. He's incomplete. He needs a woman. So we were the solution to the problem. So next time you're having an argument, you can say, I'm the solution to your problem. I'm sure we'll love that. That'll go down really well. But you are the answer to his lack, because we're here to complement one another. And where he lacks, you can be strong in, and you can complement him in. Because I know there's sometimes Gary can be all gung-ho, and and it's me that brings sometimes the sensitivity into the mix. And without it, I think it would be a very different household. So we're there to complement where he is lacking. So don't be his problem, be his answer. Because God has called you to be his answer. So don't be his problem, be his answer. I love that. I often think about the huge weight that Gary is carrying. He's carrying the whole weight of this movement. And it's a heavy weight to carry. He takes, it's a big responsibility. And we don't take it lightly at all. But I don't want to add weight to that. I don't want to add any more weight to that than what there has to be. I want to actually carry the weight with him. I want to help him, to be that helper, to carry the weight. I don't want him to come home to being, and being a wreck, or him thinking, oh my goodness, what sort of mood is she going to be in tonight? Is she going to be down on the floor? Is she going to be angry? Is she going to be miserable? I want to be a steady help and consistency. But companion to me talks about friendship, laughter. We have to have laughter in our marriage, don't we? We have to have fun. We've just become empty nesters. After 30 years of having kids, it's a long time. And then all of a sudden, Sol has moved into the Forge because he's doing academy, which is fantastic. And I'm so glad that we invested in our marriage all those years when our kids were at home, and that we didn't wait until we were empty nesters and then think, oh my goodness, we don't know each other. I shared with a friend the other day, she's not a Christian, and I said, I've, got no kids at home now. And she went, oh my goodness, that must be terrible. She said, are you going to get a dog or something? I was like, no, I'm not going to get a dog. I've got a husband, thank you. But straight away, you could see the panic on her face at the thought of being, left with her husband. And I was like, no, I don't need a dog in my life. I don't want to tie myself down to a dog. I want to be free to go and travel with my husband. But let's make our marriages adventurous and fun, because it is the greatest adventure of all. And you either make it an adventure or it can get boring otherwise. And, it's like Gary bought me a mountain bike. I was really over the moon about that. But I thought mountain bikes were for going on roads, like by the mountain. I didn't realise it was for actually going on the mountain. And I always come back covered in bruises and scratches. But he loves me to go on the bike with him. And so sometimes I do say, yes, okay. And then he goes on like an easier route. But because for me, it's about being together. And it's about, I can't expect him to do all the things I want to do that perhaps he doesn't like doing. You've got to meet each other halfway. We've got to release our husbands as well. And I know a lot of you do that, and you do it really well. But even in little ways, sometimes it's the little things that make the big difference. Like if Gary's at home and he's got to, do a message for Sunday, I love it when he's at home, and I'm like, I take that opportunity. I'm like, oh, great, I can make him lunch, I can spoil him, I can get his coffee. And it's not like he can't make his own sandwich. He can do that. But I just think, well, if he can focus on his message and not be distracted by anything, I can release him to do what he does best. And that's so important. And it's about releasing them to do what they do best. That is being a help to them. So if I can make his lunch, make some drinks and spoil him, I want to do that because it releases him. If I can go and pick up the kids and he doesn't have to think about those things, it releases him to do what he does best. And then he comes and brings an awesome message on a Sunday. But also we're called to honour our husbands, aren't we? But let's be intentional about that. When you're married for a long time, you have to think about being intentional. And, just like we saw that funny Instagram thing, a lot of people are like they're putting their husbands up. Oh, I've got such a hot husband. And I'm sure they are. Tell him yourself. But, it's not about, putting those pictures up. It's about what goes on behind those pictures, the real life. Let's be real tonight. It's what goes on behind closed doors. It's not always like the truth, what you're maybe saying on Instagram. But privately, tell him he's hot. And it's important that we do honour our husbands and we're intentional about it. We're in that Pray First series at the moment. What are you praying for your husband for at the moment? Do you pray for your husband? Do you pray for him daily? It is a challenge, isn't it? And I'm speaking to myself as well here. What about praying together? You'd be surprised at how many people I talk to. They're like, oh, I never thought of praying together. I just thought that was just being God, and we just do, I just pray to God. But if you come in agreement together over things, and you pray for your children together over things, you will see breakthrough. There's such power in agreement as you pray together. And I would really encourage you, if you don't do that, to do that. Communication, that's huge, isn't it? We know that communication, sometimes we can be on planet Mars, can't we? And they can be on a whole other planet. But communication, so many marriages break down because of our communication. Because either we don't or we're just not very good at it. And it's about setting aside time to communicate to each other. And getting a vision for your marriage together, talking about it, talking about the things that you want to do together, the plans that you have, getting a vision for your family, getting a vision for your kids. It's so important that we do get a vision together for our marriage. So how do you show value to him? I know you sent in your questions and you asked a lot of questions about, a lot of the questions were, how can I be a good wife? How can I be a better wife? How can I sharpen my husband but still honour him? And they were quite like broad questions, and that's why I'm kind of answering them in a message style rather than just answering each question separately. But I'm going to ask you a question now. So how do you show value to your husband? How do you do that? How do you show value? Do you even think about that? How do you value him? We're so busy value other people in our lives, but do we just take him for granted because he's always there? How do you honour him? How do you honour your husband? Do you honour your husband? I text Gary yesterday just telling him how much I love him, because I just do that sometimes, and I think that's really nice sometimes just to send him a text saying, and Liz is laughing because I bet she sends Matt texts all the time. Amazing Matty. But honestly, it means a lot to them. It might be a tiny little thing, but it makes a difference to their day. And I would encourage you to do that as well, because we can so easily take them for granted. And he texted me back and he said, be ready at 6:30 because I'm taking you out for dinner. So I benefited from that text. It was brilliant. Here's another question. It's not up there, but anyway. How do you serve him? Do you think about serving your husband? And how do you serve him? Maybe you need to ask him, how can I serve you better? How can I, we're asking the questions to she, how can I be a better wife? Maybe you need to say to your husband, how can I be a better wife? And sometimes we're so busy caring and serving everyone else, our kids, our family, people in church. We're so busy running around serving everyone that when it comes sometimes to our husbands, we're absolutely spent. And we're like, oh, well, we don't really have to do it for them. But no, they're a priority in our lives. They should come first. How do you speak about him? How do you speak about your husband? Because I've heard some people, I've walked through some years with people who haven't been married and they've really wanted a husband, and we prayed through it, and eventually, they've met someone and then they get married, and they, so we've gone through the whole journey, and then they get a husband and then they spend their time moaning about them. So the same lips that they used to pray to God for a husband, God blesses him with that gift, and then they absolutely talk about him in a bad way. And I just think it's just so dishonoring. And there's nothing worse, than being around a woman that is putting her husband down, or being short with them, or correcting them. That's really uncomfortable to be around. So how do you even speak to your husband? Because in front of the kids, it's so important that we speak in an honouring way, because you're modelling how you honour your husband. If you don't honour your husband, don't expect your kids to honour them. I had a friend once she had 2 girls, and then she desperately wanted a boy, and she had this boy, and he was like the king of the household. And so when he came home from, when he was a teenager, he'd come in from school, he'd lie on the sofa, she'd bring his dinner on a tray to him, get his drinks all ready, put ice in them, look after him, spoil him to death. And she would wait on him hand and foot. And then when her husband came home, it was like, oh, get it yourself. And what is that saying to that household? What is that saying to that son? And what is that saying to that husband? We don't want to be women like that, do we? We need to think the best, like Krista was saying. We need to think the best, and we need to trust them. And sometimes that is hard, isn't it? Because there's so many things out there that you have to trust them with. But we need to be quick to forgive. And we need to be quick to say sorry as well. I remember when we first got married, the times that I used to sulk because I used to think he should know what he's doing wrong. And how would he know? Because I didn't tell him, I didn't communicate. I just used to go running off across the field, and then he'd chase after me and tackle me to the ground. And that happened on many occasions. And I learnt the hard way, really. But now we do say sorry quickly. We've learnt that one. But you do have to put that into practice. And now we try and beat each other to it. It's a bit of a competition to see who can say sorry the first, the quickest. But you have to have willingness to do that, don't you? Let's have willingness in our marriage, because willingness changes everything. If you have got, because one of the questions that came through was, if you both disagree on something, what do you do? Well, you've got to meet each other halfway. And if it's over big issues that you can't resolve, I would really suggest that you get help. If you're in a cat group, if you're in one of our small groups and you're struggling, don't be too proud to go and ask for help, because we all need help sometimes, and it's important to go and ask and put pride aside, because if it's over something that's a big issue, go and get help over it, because there are people that are willing to help and speak into your marriage and invest in your marriage with you. Try to avoid language like, I'm leaving you, in the heat of the moment when you're having a big argument. Don't use those kind of words, because it breeds insecurity. And definitely don't use them in front of the children, because they will be insecure as well. They grow up with such insecurity. Right, we're going to go there now. What about the bedroom? I wasn't going to go there, but I thought, well, some of the questions you sent in, I was like, you asked for it, girls. So, do you remember the line in your marriage where you said, with my body I honour you? Do you remember that line? And I know that is in conduct and our behaviour, and that's part of it. But also, it's in the bedroom, isn't it? We need to honour our husbands. We're all going a bit shy now. We need to, but I'm really praying that your man is going to notice a difference after tonight. I really do. Come on. It's going to be awesome. Baby train's going to be going again. But, you know, maybe we need to say yes more than we say no. And stop making excuses. Men are stimulated by sight. You know, that wasn't an accident. That's God's, you know, God designed them like that. It's not their fault, really. That's God's design. And I'm sure when Adam saw Eve, he was overwhelmed with, well, I'm sure he was, well, she was naked, wasn't she? So I'm sure he was very stimulated. My goodness, I can't believe I'm going there. Oh, anyway, when Gary was first at Bible college, and he first, you know, before we were married, there were other couples around him that were married. They just got married, and so he was like asking them all the questions, and there was this one guy that he spoke to, and because obviously we were about to get married, so he was asking him lots of questions, and this guy said, "I've never seen my wife naked." And he was like, "What?" He was like, "I don't want that kind of marriage." But he said, "No, she's very shy, and she gets undressed in the dark with the lights out. Then she puts on a long nightie from here, from her neck down to her, yeah, well, I think she needs to burn it. And if you've got a nightie like that, you need to burn it. You need to go home and have a bonfire, and your husband will be throwing some wood on it." But honestly, and then she would get in under the covers, and that would be it for the night. And I was sure they were intimate, but he'd never seen her naked. Believe me, when you're naked, your husband is not looking at your love handles, so don't worry about it. The things that we worry about, he is not worried about those things. What is your bedroom like? Did you move into your house and think, oh, we've got to do the kids' bedrooms, we've got to get everywhere nice, do all the nice bits for everyone to see, and then forget about the bedroom? Is that just a functional place where you just go and lie down for 8 hours a night? You know, I'm just being real. Some of our bedrooms need sorting out. And they need some, you know, they're supposed to be our spaces to be romantic together, to be intimate together, and sometimes there's been no creativity or thought put into them at all. And I would say that's not very honouring. And I think you need to, if your bedroom, you know, yeah, it is a challenge, and I would challenge you to go and sort your bedroom out. I mean, get some candles going. I'm not, you know, you do have to blow them out. Don't know. I have set light to my husband before now. Accidentally. It wasn't actually in the bedroom, it was in the bathroom. And well, I'll just tell you that little story because it's quite funny. But he was sat on the toilet chatting to me, and I had to put some candles, because that was the only place we could have a chat without all the kids around. Privately, we could have a chat in the bathroom, so we'd lock the door for 5 minutes and have a chat. So he was sat on the toilet chatting to me, and I'd put some candles on the cistern at the back of the toilet, and then I saw smoke coming out of his back, and then he stood up and turned around, and there was flames coming out of his back, and so I just started throwing water all over him. Instead of like just pulling him in the bath, I should have just done that. But yeah, it went right through his fleece, right through his shirt, and yeah. But thankfully, I had water at hand. He was hot that night, yeah, it was. But, let's make the effort to make our bedrooms a place of beauty, a place where we can be romantic and where they can just relax with us, and it's a pleasant place to be together. I mean, I've got textures, different textures in the bedroom, like, lovely sheets and it's not going to break the bank. And if you've got horrible wallpaper, just paint over it. It doesn't cost a lot. What about nice underwear? It's important, isn't it, that we make the effort. Where's my little bag? Now, this is what I would say not to wear. This is like a very basic, t-shirt bra, and it's okay, but like not for a date night. It's like maybe every day. But it didn't cost very much more for something like this, which is much nicer. Oh my golly. And actually, this is up for grabs. If anybody, it's new, so I wouldn't give you something secondhand, but it's new. It's a 36C, so if anybody would like that, I'm sure your husband would be very pleased. But it's silky, it's lacy, it's beautiful, and I think he'd much rather that than this. And we could go a step further. That I'm sorry, George. But this isn't up for grabs because this is mine, okay? So, but joking aside, let's invest in our marriages. It's going to cost £5 in Primark for a nice little set of new underwear, and I'm sure your husband would really appreciate it. And I hope he's going to notice. If he doesn't, I'll have a word with Gary. Let me know, and he'll do something at Barbarians, okay? What about a commitment to ongoing attractiveness? Because, when you've been married a long time, you get familiar with each other. You see each other all the time. And it's nice to make the effort. Do I like going to the gym? No, I don't. Do I go? Yes, I do. Because I want to make the effort to look good and be healthy. And it's not about being thin. It's just about being the best version of you can be. If I put a bit of lipstick on, it takes a moment in my day, but it makes a huge difference to my face. So I'm going to wear lipstick. And Gary really appreciates these little things. And you might think, what the heck is this? What the heck is she going on about? But actually, do you know what all this is to do with? It's to do with building church. And if you're passionate about building church, this is all to do with it, because strong marriages build strong church, build strong families, build strong church. And it's so important. It reflects Jesus and his bride. And we want to glorify him in our marriages. And like I said before, we should have the best marriages on the planet. People should be coming to us saying, how do you have such a great marriage? It's an opportunity to share with someone about the gospel. Are you reflecting Christ to your husband? That's another question. And I think Krista shared that beautifully. We expect our husbands to do so many things. We have such a great expectation of them. We expect things, of Jesus as well. But what about us? We need to be reflecting Christ to our husbands as well, not just expecting it all like coming at us. Because what is at the top of our church filters down through our campuses. And like I said, strong marriages, it's already up there. Strong marriage builds strong families, which builds strong church. And it's so true, as you can see in this photo. Look, here's loads of our people that we've sent out all across the world. Some are local, some are far away, some are in Mombasa, Kampala. There's so many different couples there. And like I said, strong marriages build strong church. and all the people that we send out are amazing, strong couples. And do you know what? That's not actually normal in a lot of churches. A lot of churches, it's like, oh, the pastor and then the wife is a little tag along. I'm sorry, but that's not how we see it. But this is actually not normal. It's the most powerful authority here on earth is when couples actually lead together. And we're created to rule together. And it's about ruling together as couples. For us, it's a priority, and that's why we rave about marriage. We rave about date nights. We invest in our marriages in freedom because, and that's why I'm sharing this tonight, because, it's what happens at the top. So if Gary and I didn't care about marriage, it wouldn't filter through to our CPs, and then that filters through to our people. And so what's at the top filters right down through our church, and it's so important that we have great marriages. So, even looking around the room here, where is the enemy going to attack us? He's going to attack us in our marriages, isn't he? Because then he can attack our church. And I'm sharing this because there's been two churches locally recently, not very local, but that I've heard about, where the pastor has had an affair. That's real. That has happened recently, and it's so sad because that is affecting their family, but it's also affected the whole of the church. And it's such a robbery. It's so awful. And I know we might be laughing and joking about a few of these things, but that's why I'm sharing these things, because I want you to have the best marriages. I want your marriages to be protected. Okay, so what about being a voice to our husband? Share what God puts on your heart with him. Because the Holy Spirit speaks to you. And like I said, we lead together. And if the Holy Spirit is saying something to you, you need to share it with him. And then he can choose whether, he acts upon it or not. I'm always sharing things with Gary, and I submit those things to him. Submission is not a dirty word. It's a strength. It's something strong. Even when your husband is wrong, and like Krista covered this, and they make mistakes, we still have to love and respect them. That is what God is asking us to do. And it's not easy. It is difficult. But the basic need of a man is to be respected. It says that in Ephesians. The basic need of a woman is to be loved. The basic need of a man is to be respected. Gary's made mistakes over the years. He's made business decisions. He's lost loads of money over the years. But I don't throw that in his face. I've always respected him, and I continue to trust him, because if you don't respect him at that time, how is he going to step up again? Because you learn from your mistakes, and then if he gets the right reaction from you, then to trust him again, he'll go again. But if you just tear him down and keep reminding him of his failures, it's not going to help him go forward. We always want our husbands as well to listen to us, don't we? Won't you listen to me? When do we listen to him as well? You've got to be the other one, the other part as well. You've got to listen as well. And another thing that we've always tried to put into action is to have a celebration culture in our marriage. And I think that's so important. Celebrate the little things together. If something's happened in business or something's happened in our family and it's really great, we celebrate it, because, you can easily moan about things when things aren't going well, or you pray about things, but sometimes you forget to celebrate when things happen and God turns things around. So be grateful for your man. Look for the hero in him. There is a hero in every one of your husbands. And sometimes you might not always see it, but it's probably going to be you that is going to bring out the hero in your man. So you need to look for the hero in your man. You need to encourage the hero in your man. Just read this in Proverbs 31:10-12. A wife of noble character who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. There's a lot in those couple of verses, isn't there, just alone? But you know, we want our husbands to be confident in us and to lack nothing, to bring him good, not harm. Such a great verse. So tonight I want to encourage you to raise your level of faith for your marriage. Because we have faith for a lot of other things, and we talk about faith for this and faith for that. Let's have faith for our marriages tonight. And if you've got a good marriage, have faith for an even better marriage. You know, let's cheer each other on to thrive in our marriages. Because we don't want it to be just good, we want it to be fantastic. So let's cheer each other on in our marriages. Let's share different things that are going to help each other as wives. You know, I see such strength and courage in all of you. You're amazing women. And, you know, I want you to have amazing marriages.